My name is Diana Martinez, and I was the proud founder of one of the city's most celebrated wedding planning agencies. 3 months ago, everything I'd worked so hard to build began to crumble, thanks to my brother-in-law Carlos. He joined my company under the guise of learning the ropes, but instead dismantled my success piece by piece. To make matters worse, he convinced my family that the blame rested squarely on my shoulders. The day Carlos showed up at my office is etched in my memory. Diana, mi hermana. He boomed, pulling me into a hug that felt more like a performance than a greeting. Your last wedding was amazing. Social media can't stop talking about those floating lanterns and ice sculptures. Pure genius. I ignored the warning signs, the overly enthusiastic smile, the subtle way his eyes scanned my awards and magazine covers displayed on the wall. Miguel, my husband of 8 years, had begged me to give his brother a chance. He just needs a break, Miguel had pleaded over dinner the night before. The startup he worked for went under, and good opportunities are hard to find. Dreams to reality wasn't just a business to me, it was my life's work. I had started it 10 years ago from my tiny apartment, working tirelessly to build a reputation for delivering once-in-a-lifetime experiences. Now I was booking million-dollar weddings and gracing the pages of top bridal magazines. Carlos was all charm that day. I'll start at the bottom, he insisted, sitting on the edge of my chair like he belonged there. I just want to learn from the best. Who better than my brilliant sister-in-law? Looking at the photo on my desk, Miguel and I beaming at a gala where I'd won Entrepreneur of the Year, I gave in. Fine, I said, my voice heavy with reluctance, but you'll start with the basics. Wedding planning is about more than just big ideas. It's about details, trust, and precision. Carlos nodded, but something in his expression felt off. I brushed it aside. At first he seemed eager to learn. He shadowed my junior planners, handled coffee runs, and won over the staff with his charm. But then the accidents began. A bride's flower order was inexplicably swapped from classic white roses to garish orange lilies. A critical seating chart was accidentally deleted. A vendor payment mysteriously disappeared. Whenever I confronted him, Carlos played the victim. I was only trying to help, he would say with wide, innocent eyes. Maybe there's a glitch in the system. Sarah, my senior planner, tried to warn me. Diana, these mistakes aren't random. Carlos is always at the center of them. But Miguel dismissed her concerns. He's new, my amor. Everyone makes mistakes at first. Don't you remember your first year? Yes, I remembered it vividly. Endless hours, meticulous triple checks, and a refusal to let any detail slip through the cracks. I had never made excuses. The Hendricks wedding was the tipping point. Emily Hendricks, the daughter of a powerful family, was counting on us for $1 million celebration that would cement our agency's reputation. Every detail was perfect. The Parisian gown, Thai orchids, and a custom menu by a Michelin-starred chef. Then, 2 days before the wedding, I got a frantic call from Emily. Diana, what is happening? Your brother-in-law just told me everything's been moved to the downtown convention center. My stomach dropped. What? The wedding is at the Grand Plaza. Well, Carlos said there was a pipe burst, and now he's talking about finding me a new dress because mine is stuck in customs. In a panic, I contacted the Grand Plaza. No pipe burst. The dress? Still in storage. But Carlos had already contacted vendors, redirecting them to a different venue. When I confronted him, he was all smooth deflection. I just wanted to be prepared. You've been so stressed, Diana. Maybe you should let go a little, delegate more. I couldn't believe his audacity. That night, I called a family meeting. I expected support, but Carlos had already spun his narrative. Diana's been under so much pressure, he said, his voice heavy with feigned concern. I've done my best to help, but she's been so paranoid, blaming me for everything. My in-laws nodded sympathetically. Mijita, Miguel's mother, said, maybe you need to take a step back. Carlos says you've been working too hard. My temper flared. Working too hard? He's sabotaging my business. Enough? Miguel snapped. Carlos is family. He's trying to help, and you're treating him like the enemy. You owe him an apology. The betrayal hit me like a punch. Apologize? To Carlos? I stormed out, the summer night doing little to cool my anger. My phone buzzed, another text from Emily, panicked about the chaos. Then came a message from Sarah. You need to see this. Carlos has been accessing our systems after hours. I found something. I straightened up, resolve hardening. Carlos might have fooled my family, but I wasn't about to let him destroy everything I built. It was time to gather proof and fight back. What I didn't know was that the Hendricks wedding was only the beginning. Carlos' plans would test not just my business, but my marriage and the very definition of family loyalty. Walking into the office the next morning, everything seemed normal. Deceptively so. The morning sun streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow on the rows of wedding photos lining the walls. Each image represented a flawless day I'd brought to life. Now, every one of them felt like a fragile illusion on the verge of collapse. Sarah was waiting at my desk, her laptop open and her expression grim. "You need to see this," she said, her voice low. She turned the screen toward me, displaying a series of system logs. Every night between 2 and 4 a.m., someone's been accessing client files, changing details, rescheduling appointments, all under Carlos's login. I leaned closer, scanning the entries, my chest tightened. He's deliberately targeting our highest profile clients. Sarah's expression darkened further. "And that missing vendor payment? Look at this." She opened a deleted email, showing a forged message from Carlos redirecting the payment to a different account. He claimed an urgent update to the vendor's banking details. The realization hit me like a punch. He's not just sabotaging weddings, he's trying to destroy our reputation. Before I could process it further, Carlos breezed into the office, a tray of coffee in hand. "Buenos dias," he chirped, his grin as bright as the sun outside. "Diana, I've been thinking about the Hendricks wedding. I know I overstepped, but I've got some ideas to make it even better." I forced a smile, suppressing the urge to call them out right then and there. Miguel's words about family loyalty echoed in my mind. "That's great," I replied evenly. "Why don't you write up a proposal? I'd love to see your vision." His eyes lit up, whether with genuine excitement or something more calculated. I couldn't tell anymore. The rest of the day was a blur of carefully orchestrated documentation. I tracked every mishap, saved screenshots, and backed up files to secure cloud storage. Sarah worked quietly beside me, compiling evidence to bolster our case. That evening, Miguel surprised me with takeout from my favorite restaurant. He set the table with extra care, even lighting a candle. "Mi amor," he said, his tone gentle but firm, "we need to talk about Carlos." My heart raced. Had he finally seen through his brother's lies? "He's really impressed everyone," Miguel continued, his voice laced with optimism. "I think it's time we give him more responsibility, his own accounts to manage." The wine glass froze halfway to my lips. "You're joking." "Why not? He's family, Diana. He has great ideas, and he's eager to learn." Eager to learn? I set the glass down carefully, trying to keep my voice steady. "Miguel, he's sabotaging my business." Miguel's expression hardened. "There you go again. When did you become so paranoid? This isn't like you." "Paranoid? I have proof." "Enough." Miguel stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "I can't watch you treat my brother like this. He made one mistake with the Hendricks wedding, and you've turned it into a vendetta." I stared at him, my partner, my confidant, the man who had always been my rock. Now he was willfully blind to the truth, or worse, refusing to see it. The days that followed were a careful balancing act. I played nice with Carlos, pretending to trust him, while quietly gathering the last pieces of evidence. Sarah and I created a detailed paper trail, documenting every unauthorized change, every deleted email, every phone call. Then Carlos made his next move. The Anderson account was one of our most loyal clients. Lisa Anderson had trusted us with her corporate events for years, and now her daughter's wedding was in our hands. It was the kind of relationship I'd worked so hard to build, one Carlos seemed determined to destroy. "Lisa, I'm so sorry," I overheard him saying on the phone. His tone was dripping with fake concern. "Diana's been under so much stress lately. Maybe we should talk about transferring your daughter's wedding to another agency, just to be safe." That was the breaking point. I had everything I needed to expose him. That night, I showed Miguel the evidence, the system logs, the emails, the recordings. But he didn't even glance at the screen. "Family stands together, Diana," he said, his voice cold. "If you can't understand that, maybe you need to rethink your priorities." I slept in the guest room that night, clutching my phone with all the evidence I'd worked so hard to collect. My perfect life, The business I'd built, the marriage I'd cherished, was unraveling before my eyes. The next morning, I made my decision. Family might stand together, but I hadn't built my company by letting others destroy it. Carlos's gain was over. It was time to fight back. What I didn't realize was that Carlos had already set his endgame in motion, and the fallout would be more devastating than I could ever have imagined. The beginning of the end came in the form of a company-wide email. Dear team, it read, due to recent concerns about management stability, we will be restructuring Dreams to Reality's leadership. Carlos Martinez will take over as interim CEO during this transition period. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. Somehow, Carlos had gained access to my admin credentials. He was making his move. Before I could react, my office door slammed open. Miguel stormed in, his face a storm cloud of rage, phone clenched tightly in his hand. Care to explain this? He demanded, shoving the screen in front of me. The photos made my stomach drop. Dozens of them, images doctored to look like I was embezzling company funds, meeting secretly with competitors. They're fake, I said, though my voice wavered. Miguel wasn't listening. Carlos found them on your computer, along with emails, proof that you've been sabotaging your own weddings to frame him. Dios mío, Diana, how could you? Before I could defend myself, Sarah appeared in the doorway. Stop right there. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the tension like a blade. She strode in, laptop in hand. Carlos didn't count on one thing. I've been tracking everything since his first day. With a few clicks, Sarah played a video. It showed Carlos, late at night, accessing my computer, planting false evidence, and making those after-hours system changes. That's not all, she said, pulling up more files. Audio recordings played next. Carlos calling clients, spreading lies, and deliberately undermining our reputation. Miguel's expression shifted from anger to confusion to horror. He sank into a chair, staring at the screen. But why? Because Dreams to Reality should have been mine. Carlos's voice rang out from behind us. We turned to find him standing in the doorway, his mask of charm and innocence finally gone. His face twisted with rage and resentment. I had the idea for this business years ago, he spat. But no one would take me seriously. Then you came along, some outsider, and built what I'd always dreamed of. And everyone loved you for it. Carlos, Miguel whispered, his voice breaking. What have you done? The next few hours passed in a blur of chaos. Lawyers, police statements, more evidence pouring in from Sarah's meticulous files. Carlos's scheme unraveled in real time. Not only had he sabotaged the business, but he'd also committed fraud by diverting vendor payments into personal accounts. That night, Miguel held me as I cried, the weight of everything finally breaking over me. I'm so sorry, my amor, he murmured. I should have believed you. Family loyalty matters, but trust is everything. 6 months later, Dreams to Reality was thriving. The Hendricks wedding had been a massive success, and Emily had even written a glowing article about how we overcame corporate sabotage to deliver her perfect day. Carlos? He was facing charges for fraud and cybercrimes. Miguel struggled with the betrayal, but our marriage emerged stronger, tested by fire, and rebuilt on unwavering trust. As for me, I learned a lesson far more valuable than any business accolade. The hardest part of success isn't building it, it's protecting it from those who want to take it away. Even family, and when you know you're right, you stand your ground. No matter who tells you to apologize.